Welcome to my channel. My name's Bissy, and I don't know about you, but I need to get this timeline straight in my head. There have been a number of breadcrumbs that the show has dropped for us along the way, and I've picked up as many as I can and will run through them for you today. If you enjoy my videos and want to see more, please subscribe and let me know by hitting like and leaving a comment. I love chatting with you all. And with that said, let's get into the video. Oh, sorry. And before I forget, I just want to say that this is purely speculation. I'm intending for this video to be just a little bit of fun for us all to enjoy. I'm not claiming anything to be fact, and I could be completely wrong on some or even all accounts. So please, I hope we all just enjoy the speculation for what it is. Speculation. Okay, and with that said, let's get into the video. Okay, so to get to the start of the vampire Lestat, I think we need to go all the way back to Daniel's interviews with Louis. There were 15 sessions that take place over the course of 13 days in June. Now, I went right back and I tracked every single one of those sessions. Now, my marker was the outfits. I mean, that's just the way my brain works. But Daniel does announce that he sits down with Louis for their first session on the 14th of June, 2022. Now, on most days, you can see that there is one session per day, but on the 17th and on the 24th, there were two sessions in that day. And in episodes 7 and 8 of season 2, both episodes cover session 15. Now, that takes us to session 15 happening on the 26th of June, 2022. And we know that it's on this date or sometime after that Armand changes Daniel. Now, I've searched high and low, but there is just no concrete evidence that I can find that satisfies my need where I could confidently say that I think it happened within this time bracket. I know what I hope, but I don't know for sure. So I'm just going to say that at some point on or after the 26th of June, 2022, Armand changed Daniel. Okay, so the next event is Louis meeting up with Lestat in New Orleans. Now, our only true marker for that is the conversation that Louis has with the taxi driver. Now, the taxi driver mentions the Essence Festival and New Edition playing. So I did some searching, and New Edition in real life played the Essence Festival that took place between the 30th of June, 2022 and the 3rd of July, 2022. Now, again, this is in real life, not in the show. But I put 2 and 2 together, and that's my conclusion, my speculation. The taxi driver also mentions Hurricane Odette. Now, I had another search, and it seems like maybe that hurricane didn't actually happen in that year. But in general, hurricane season in New Orleans is between the 1st of June to the 30th of November. So I feel that we can confidently place Louis' visit with Lestat between the 26th of June, okay, let's say the 27th of June, and the 3rd of July. Okay, so now we enter the great unknown, the great gap, I like to call it. Because in this time, after June 2022, at some point, Daniel writes his book. Now, I know that writing a book can take a long time, but it can also be bashed out pretty quickly. But Daniel is a professional. He's done this before. And I don't think he would have just bashed out anything. I think he would have taken his time. But again, that is just my opinion, just my speculation. So after Daniel has written this book, or maybe whilst he's writing it, he has interference from the Talamasca, specifically the Amsterdam branch. Now, we know that one of their edits was at least one page where they added a list of Louis' victims. We haven't seen for certain if they've done any other edits so far. So, the book's in production, and we don't know if Louis and Lestat are still talking within this time. We don't know if they're nurturing this very, very new reconciliation. And then finally, in this gap, the book is released. Now, I think the book was released at the end of 2024, and we take a small leap into the beginning of 2025. And the reason I say that is this. Now, bear with me as I break this down. So after Daniel's interview on television in Atlanta, now I'm going to call this month 4. Now, bear with me. Daniel speaks with Louis. In that conversation, amongst other things, Louis is in possession of a copy of Daniel's book. Now, this book is an advanced copy. Louis also says to Daniel that the book is at the top of his stack to read. Now, crucially, Daniel says that Louis said that last month too. Now let's track that back and call that month 3. So Daniel and Louis must have spoken at that point where Louis says it's at the top of my stack, maybe for the first time. So we know that in month 3, Louis is in possession of this advanced copy of the novel. So let's track back a few more months and go to month -1. And this is when I think Louis found out about the book for the very first time and received that advanced copy. Now let's move to month 0. I think now this again is speculation, but this is the puzzle that makes sense to me. Now, I think that this is when Louis and Lestat had that FaceTime call. And I say this because Louis says that he's known about it for a month. Now, we don't know for sure what happened after this conversation. We know that Lestat was upset, and we know that we're going to get Rockstar Lestat at some point. So let's say that Lestat introduces himself to the band and they form in month 1. And over the course of month 1 and 2, they start to create their album. Now, this is when I hope this is all going to make sense to you as well. So if we go right back to month 0, during that FaceTime with Louis, Lestat gets a notification about Beyonce tickets. Now, I did some more searching and there was a notification that went out for the pre-sale of these tickets on the 11th of February 2025. So if we call month 0 February, then we can call month -1 January. And this is when I think Louis found out about the book. Now let's remember, in that interview, Daniel said that the book had been out for 4 months and it had sold 5 million copies at that time. And if we believe Louis that he had only known about the book for a month prior to that FaceTime, and that Daniel and Louis had a conversation in the month prior to that interview, then this is the timeline that makes sense to me. Now, I hope I've done a good job at explaining this. It all makes sense in my head, but trying to display it is another thing. So if you do have any questions, please just let me know down below. Oof. Okay, so let's move on to a little bit of time where, again, I'm not exactly sure when it is, but I am pretty sure that this happens in 2025. We know at some point the singles or even the album was released, Lestat's album. We also know that Daniel gets a call from a Hollywood type with an offer to make the movie version of his book. We know that a week later, Daniel gets a call from the same person from Hollywood to make a documentary. Now, the documentary is going to be on Lestat. A week after that, Daniel says that he wants to be the one to direct the documentary. So this is when it turns a little bit vague because we don't have the exact framings, but at some point, Daniel meets with the Hollywood type. He then meets with Christine Clare, who's Lestat's lawyer. Then the documentary is greenlit. And we know that after this, Daniel sits down with Louis and possibly the Talamasca. Now, I believe this is all happening in 2025. And it's certainly happening before October 2025. So it's in that gap between October and June. Okay, so we're in 2025. Lestat's tour is underway and the documentary has begun. We see Daniel interview Rockstar Lestat as he's about to go into his dressing room, his vampire dressing room, sorry. In the background, you can see some posters for some other bands who may have performed at that venue. On the left, you can see a poster for Urban Jungle. Now, it says here, Thursday the 28th, doors at 7 p.m. Now, in 2025, I believe that the only Thursday the 28th was on the 28th of August, 2025. Now, it may be the case that Urban Jungle performed in August, but I don't think that this places this scene in August. Now, looking at this type of venue, I spent a lot of time in venues like this in my early 20s, and posters aren't always taken down as soon as the acts perform. So I don't know that this does place us in August, but it may do. So I don't know. Again. It's just speculation. And then on the right, we have Narco Deco American Tour. And I'm so sorry, but I just can't make out any of the details on this. And I wouldn't want to speculate that much. But we know we're in America here. Now, in the section before this, I mentioned that Daniel having those meetings with Hollywood and Lestat's lawyer and Louis potentially happened between June 2025 and October 2025. Now, I say this because in the snippet that AMC shared on Instagram of Lestat's band being interviewed, the date on the clacker was the 4th of October 2025. Now, when I did a post about this, I got it completely wrong. I completely forgot that in America, you have the date the other way around. So I have tried really hard to make sure that I've made the date so clear that it can't be ambiguous what I mean. Now, of course, we don't know if that was at the beginning of filming or the end, or how long the filming process for the documentary went on for. Okay, so I watched Talamasca again recently, as I remember that there were so many Easter eggs in there, but it was really helpful for dating as well. So if you haven't watched it, there will be a little bit of spoilers here. So in early November, on or after the 1st of November, Daniel was at a book reading in New York. Now, I'm presuming that the documentary has been filmed at this point, and maybe it's in post-production, I don't know. Because Daniel being on his tour whilst filming a documentary doesn't seem to add up, but I mean, maybe he could. Then we see that on the 9th of November 2025, Guy flies to London. And then on the 11th of November 2025, Guy opens a file that has some information about his mum, Anna Lemus, who eagle-eyed viewers will notice was circled under the names of Louis' victims, that the Amsterdam branch of the Talamasca added to Daniel's book. And then a few days later, we hear All Fall Down playing in a pub. And that's it. That's the last of the Easter eggs that I could find that leads us all the way from July 2022 to November 2025. If you found any more information, let me know. But this has been a really fun video to make. So thank you so much for watching if you've watched this far. And I will see you in my next one. Thank you. Bye.